Let me first introduce our organization. Meet My Friend Within is a nonprofit organization based both in the US and India. The primary purpose of MMF is to support education for underprivileged kids ranging from middle school through college. We also support farmers who embrace sustainable farming practices and families who are in distress due to loss of earning loved one. While the services are primarily rendered in India, we perform several volunteer activities here in the US. If anyone of you would like to learn more about MMF or about the volunteer activities that we perform, or if you would like to donate for the cause, please reach out to our email address or the phone number listed here on right beside me this way. Admin at Manloni Munshi Foundation, admin at manlonimunshi.org. Let's jump into the program today. We have two distinguished medical professionals today with us, Dr. Satish Dondaraju and Dr. Swapna Aratyula. Welcome to you both. Let me briefly introduce them. Dr. Satish is a graduate of Andhra Medical College in India, and Dr. Swapna graduated from Guntur Medical College also in India. After graduation, both of them moved to UK for practicing medicine. And after spending 6 years in the UK, they both relocated to Chicago, where they completed their residency in internal medicine at the Cook County Health System. Dr. Satish is currently serving as the chairman of the Department of Medicine and program director for the internal medicine residency program at Mercy Hospitals in Rockford, Illinois. He is a senior fellow at the Society of Hospital Medicine and fellow of American College of Physicians and fellow of Royal College of Physicians, London, UK. Dr. Swapna is currently hospitalist and faculty at internal medicine program at Mercy Hospitals in Rockford, Illinois. Along with them, we also have their son, Mr. Saket, who is joining us today. He is currently a freshman at NYU College. Welcome, all of you. Thank you for taking your valuable time and spending time with us. Dr. Satish, if you would like to say a few words before we jump into question and answers.
So good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, actually. So thank you for this opportunity, and really glad to be here. And just a little bit, about me. I'm a practicing physician, and my expertise is in medical residency applications. So where I review the applications for people who are currently in med school and they apply for the residency programs. So I review their applications. So in a given year, we have around close to 1,800 to 2,000 applications in a year. So I review them, and so that is my main area of expertise. I do medical college admissions interviews. So again, so that is also something where I've done from time to time. So those are my kind of areas of interest and areas of expertise. Rest of everything, I just picked up a few things here and there. I'm not a certified advisor or anything like that, but I'll try my best to help you, give you some information what I came to know practicing in this country.
Thank you very much, Dr. Satish. So thank you, audience, for coming and attending this session. I know all of you have submitted several questions. A lot of questions are repeated, which is expected. So what we have done is that we have combined and summarized a lot of your questions. What I will be doing today is I will be asking those questions to Dr. Satish and Dr. Swapna Garu. And if we have time, after we are done with all the questions, then we will open the forum for more questions. In the meanwhile, if you have questions that you have not asked in the forum, feel free to open the type your questions, and we'll try our best to address them. Okay, without further delay, I will go ahead and start the questions here. So, Dr. Satish, can you please provide a general overview of the path of to have a successful career in medical field? You can start with high school, undergraduate, med school, residency, just like a general overview.
Sure. So the path to medicine, I get this question a lot. Sometimes I actually been asked by students or med students, if you have to repeat this again, would you actually do this again? And my answer is yes, 100% yes, because from the beginning, I really wanted to be in medicine to serve the people in the community, and that I saw as a truly rewarding career. So that's why, even though the path to becoming a doctor is difficult or is tough, I still feel like that is the right path for me in my case. But to give you an idea as to what it actually involves, so from the time you complete the high school, you graduate from high school, you're looking into 4 years of college. And then if you're lucky enough directly to go into the med school at the time without any gap years, then med school is 4 more years. So it's already 8 years already. And then once you graduate from the medical school, then you have to go into residency. So residency, um, I'm not sure how many parents are in the group, but this is like our post-graduation back in India, so-called MD or MS, and that is 3 years here. So it is altogether now 4 plus 4, 4 years of college, 4 years of medical school, 3 years of residency. So at a very minimum, you're actually looking at 11 years after your high school education, at a very minimum. Now, if you want to pursue fellowship, which is if you want to practice as a cardiologist or as a pulmonary doctor or as a ICU doctor, you're actually looking at 3 more years of fellowship or maybe even more years of fellowship. So, you can actually say 11 to 15 years, depending on which area you want to specialize in, assuming everything kind of goes like in a clockwork. Now, there are some variations also for this, okay? So 11 to 15 years is the norm, but you can also go into what is called as a direct med program, which is right after high school. You get into an admission for medical school as well as the college. These programs are usually, depending on the college and depending on the place, they can be 6-year programs, they can be 7-year programs, or they can be 8-year programs. Now, if you were to do a 6-year program, then you're going to cut short the time from 11 years to now 9 years. Okay, so that is the earliest. Now, there are some med schools recently, you may have seen in Wisconsin, instead of doing 4 years of med school, they're actually now cutting down the time to 3 years of med school. So, if you happen to get into those kind of programs, then you're at a minimum looking at altogether 10 years, at a very minimum. I can tell you the path is long, but if that is what you've set your mind on, if that is what you want to be, really, I think you should pursue that, and I am strongly in favor of it. Even though I actually decided on my own. My father is a practicing. He's a practicing pediatrician, but he never actually asked me to become a doctor, or he never suggested that I should consider that. I chose the career on my own, and even when I was in med school, I have seen like people who I studied high school with. they're already graduated, they're doing masters, or they signed up with a job at some of the prestigious companies. They're already earning a paycheck, and here I am in the med school still studying medicine, preparing for the exams, putting in like 12 hours, 13 hours a day, studying for various things. So I felt a little bit, oh my god, okay, did I choose the right path, did I not, so that was something I also felt at the time of my career. But then once you go through the med school, once you do the licensing exams, and once you land up in a residency, then finally you can actually see the light at the end of the tunnel. And from that point on, there is no really looking back. I think my big reasons for doing medical school are, the first thing is obviously, you have a job security. Even in the downturns of economy, you're pretty much guaranteed to actually have a job. The only exception to that is COVID was the first time ever in the history that a lot of practices were shut down, and there was actually a hit on the physician's paycheck or their bonuses. That was the first time ever it happened. But by and large, it is a recession-proof job. Recently, my brother-in-law was at the AI conference in California, and they were actually showing a grid of the impact of AI in the next 10, 20 years on a lot of jobs. And, the physician jobs are relatively kind of untouched, even in the era of AI. They're going to be complementing each other, but not going to overtake the physician jobs as such. So that is the second reason. So recession-proof job, not going to be really impacted by the AI, in terms of losing the jobs. And then in terms of satisfaction, right? Really, I think, you are making sometimes a very important decisions. Sometimes these decisions have to be made in the middle of the night when you're tired, when you're exhausting. But still, you have to make those calls, and sometimes those calls might actually mean that you ended up saving a patient's life, and sometimes not the case. So it is definitely a stressful job, no question about that. But the rewards are really great. Just ask your parents, if there are the students here in the group. So just ask your parents. Your parents will tell you the doctor who gave, who delivered you, right? So that is something that they will kind of cherish that for the rest of their life. And so it's really kind of a very nice feeling to be, like, remembered by the patients, by their families. And I have actually seen some physicians where they deliver kids, and then they deliver their kids. And really, it's like, your true family doctor. And then whenever you are in the shopping area, there are advantages and disadvantages. People recognize you, people come to you and say hello to you. For me, that's a very nice feeling. That's a very nice feeling. Now, not everyone likes that. A lot of people may say, okay, I need my privacy. I don't want to deal with angry patients or angry people. So there are some downsides also, because your life is almost like a public, you're almost going to be like a public figure in some ways, especially if you have your own practice and people will comment on your abilities. You have your Google reviews, you have, so you have to open up yourself for a little bit of public scrutiny. But overall, I really like what I'm doing, and I'm happy to be where I am as an internal medicine doctor, and also as a program director for residency training and teaching the residents and also the medical students.
If I may speak, good morning, good afternoon, rather, everyone. This is Swapna Sorry, I was doing my other job, my Uber job. Sorry. I'm just joking. With the kids, you have all these commitments. Anyway, so thank you, Mohan Garu, for that great introduction. And also thank you, Srini Garu and Jagdish Garu, for this opportunity. I have a small disclaimer. So we both didn't do the medicine here. So obviously we've been here for many years. So this is, we didn't go through this firsthand ourselves, but obviously seeing others and seeing our residents. So this is all the advice we're giving you is like kind of secondhand. Going through medicine is firsthand. Going through medicine US is not firsthand. So I want you guys to know that. As saying that, doing medicine wasn't that easy in India too. When we both went into medicine, we both had to be top 500 in maybe like 200,000 people. I don't remember, but at least 2-3 lakh people wrote the MCET exam and we had to be top 500. So kind of, it's like whatever the cream of the cream they take right into going into medicine. I don't have any medical background like Dr. Satish did. I didn't have anybody in my family that went into medicine. My dad was a civil engineer. He really aspired me to be an engineer. And everybody else in the family was an engineer, so I despised being an engineer. So I was like, I don't want to listen to my dad. So I'm just joking. But I just wanted to be something different. So I chose being a doctor, which as Dr. Satish said, if anybody asked me, would you do that again? Anytime, in any life, I would probably want to do this. This is kind of my passion. I'm a hospitalist, which we take care of all the patients that come in the hospital. I also do something called palliative care. We take care of patients that are end of life. So when people are dying, we take care of them, provide them services. That's what we do. So kind of a lot of compassion goes into it. Now, are people dead? Probably not. You just develop it as you go along. You probably don't have much choice. So, but because you do this in day out, I guess you develop a lot of skills around it. Now, I just want you guys to know, I know some of the things Dr. Satish have mentioned might sound a little negative. This is not to be a negative. I just want you guys to understand the path is really long. Just because the dropout rates, the last time I've seen were somewhere around 10 to 20%. I don't know if Dr. Satish can correct me on that. But people going to med school, they can't take the stress and they are like, oh, this is too long for us. I don't think we can do it. People drop out. That's not what any of you want to do. We want you guys all to know what's involved in this and go into this medical field willingly. Now, obviously, for the first 11 years, you won't have the fruits, but after that, I think most people love what they do. Now, the first 8 years, you don't get any pay. You have to either take loans or depend on your parents, right? But I think in residency, people get paid a little amount, not a lot, but there is a stipend, which is okay for, I think, a family to live, if I'm not wrong, but that's what it is.
Yeah, right now I think that pays around $65,000 if you are a resident. So thanks for correcting. So once you become a resident physician, which is after your medical school, then you start earning a stipend. And right now it is currently around $65,000 per year, which will be kind of helpful, to kind of survivability factor. So you have some money as a resident physician there. Yes.
Very good. Thank you very much, Dr. Satish and Dr. Sapna, for that. You covered most of the questions, almost very high level, but we can go into details for some of these questions also, but thank you very much. That was a very good introduction. So I understand you have not gone to the undergraduate program here. in the United States, but from whatever knowledge that you have, can you talk a little bit about how do the students go about selecting their colleges, the application process?
Sure. So if the high school student is already set on a career path that they're actually going to be in the medical field, then they have an option of applying to this direct med program, which is the combined it's a BA BS MD program. So they are very competitive, and the advantage with that program is you're not only getting an admission into the college for a bachelor's degree, but you're also getting an admission into it's a provisional admission into the medical school also. Now, some schools are a 6-year program, like, for example, University of Kansas, Missouri, they're a 6-year program. Some schools are actually 7 years, and some schools are 8-year program. So depending on where you end up, but also keep in mind a lot of state programs, they only want to take the residents from that particular state. So like, for example, there is one in the University of Illinois, they prefer, they want to take students from the state. Likewise, different states have different rules and restrictions, so they only want to prefer residents from that particular state. Now, so that is one thing. If the other option would be directly to apply for any college, 4-year college, and then you pursue the medical school once you're in the college. With regards to the direct med program, if you're really passionate about that, so what it means is that the high school student has to put in a little bit more effort, because those are very competitive. And what you have to do is you have to try and get those clinical experiences. So what do I mean by clinical experiences? By going to the hospital or any clinics in your area and trying to do as a volunteer. So as a volunteer, you might be sitting at a front desk, and you might be receiving people, trying to help them, guide them, all of that, right? So you're trying to develop your interpersonal communication skills, which is really very valuable thing to practice medicine. The second thing is job shadowing, also called as physician shadowing. So, as we covered earlier, there are some people, you might think this is crazy, but there are people who actually get into med school, do 1 year or 2 years, and once they start interacting with the patients, they feel like that career is not a right fit for them. They drop out of med school even at the time also. So we're trying to find out, even at the high school level, is medicine as a career the right fit for you? Because you want to be in a place where your skills, using your skills, you're going to thrive. If your skills are going to be writing the software program, doing the computer, coding, and then you are really a smart brain, then maybe you can use your talents in a different way. So whereas with the medicine, you really have to convince yourself. So what the colleges look for is, have you really done those physician shadowing? So now when you talk about physician shadowing, did you go to the emergency room to shadow the emergency room physician? Did you go to the inpatient physicians? Did you go to obstetrics and gynecology? Did you see pediatrics? So the expectation is you're going to spend time with all these disciplines and get a fair idea of what the day-to-day work is. How are they kind of handling it? How are they talking to patients? All those things. And also at the same time, this is an opportunity for you to interact with the nursing teams. So there is a lot that goes into it, and different programs have different rules. Some programs say we need at least 200 hours clinical hours, like meaning volunteering or doing a job shadowing. Some programs ask for 400 hours, which is a little bit more of a requirement. So you really have to be able to do those clinical experiences, those volunteering in the hospital, job shadowing, number one. So that is number one. The second thing is research experience. I'm actually talking about these things in the order of importance. So first is clinical experiences, second is research experience. So the research experience, you may actually, in the place where you live, the closer the university there is, they can actually do this summer research programs, or you can apply to the research programs and then be selected. Like for example, here, University of Illinois, it's a very competitive program in the summer. So you have to apply for it, be selected for it, and then in the summer do the research. Some of them are like paid internships, some of them are unpaid. So it really depends. As long as you are able to, eloquently put on your application what you did in the lab, and what is the project, and did you get a publication out of this? So all those things really matter. If you are in a fortunate situation of not only doing the research, but also have, say, poster presentations. Poster presentations is where you just put a poster, you write all the article, put it on a poster, display at a conference. There are societies which do annual conferences. So if you do something like that, that's really great thing on your application. Now, if you have a publication, even better, even better. Okay, so that is the second thing, research experience. So do you have any research experience in the field of medicine is what they're looking at for direct MD programs. So we're talking everything about the direct MD programs. Okay, the third one is your community service. So for example, you may actually spend some Sunday afternoons volunteering at a local temple or volunteering at a homeless shelter. You may think that's okay, I've just done it for a good reason, or maybe you're not, this not-for-profit organization that you're part of right now. You can spend some time volunteering with them, and you might think, oh, it doesn't really matter. But no, seriously, it actually matters a lot. The time you're spending is really a big deal. And you have to tie in how your time spent, whether it is a homeless shelter or whether it is in a free clinic or whether it is any charitable organization. How is it helping you to become a better doctor in the field of medicine? So you have to tie that to your application. So that's the third thing, your community experiences, most important thing. So all these factors play a big role when you're applying, along with your SAT scores, along with the ACT scores. Okay, so and the GPA. So GPA is most important. Okay, and some colleges, they say that now they're not really looking at the SAT. Honestly, don't believe that, because if they're not asking for the SAT, they're going to ask something similar, something equivalent of SAT. Okay, so you need a high GPA. You need good scores on SAT, ACT, and you need to do all those things which we talked about. The volunteering experiences, the clinical experiences, the research, all those things. And now, if it is the direct med programs, what happens is the colleges have to give you an admit initially, and then their med school committees will then do the second round, which is when they will send you an invitation for an interview. So interview in itself is like they check for a lot of things. In the interview, I can talk about like 1 whole hour just on the basis of the interview alone, like what kind of things they talk about in the interview, how to be ready, what kind of questions they will ask you, and those things like that. Okay, so that's the interview process. So these are all the steps, and it is very competitive. And unfortunately, some of the universities are moving away from this direct med programs. There was one at Boston University, very well reputed. I don't know, for some reason they stopped taking in new applicants. I heard that Northwestern has also moved away from that, Northwestern University. So there are some programs moving away from this direct med program. So what it means is there is a very high competition for the remaining spots. Now you can say, okay, you're telling me all the positives of this direct med program. You're saying that it might cut back on the year, like maybe 1 year or 2 years. That is a big win. So I don't have to pay like the tuition for 8 years. I only need to pay for 6 years. That's a big win. And then my career path is set. I don't have to worry about MCAT. That's a big win. Right. So what are the disadvantages? So the disadvantages are some 6-year programs or 7-year or these direct med programs. Even though you got a provisional entry into the med school, they still require you to do the MCAT, and not only do the MCAT, but also have a score which is like reasonable score MCAT. So, for example, for the last academic year, um, 512 was the median score. That is the score where above which the applicants they have a high chance of getting into the medical schools. Okay, 512. Now, if there is a person who is admitted to this 8-year direct MD program, now gets 510, unfortunately, you lost the admission into the direct into the medical school because you haven't met their met their criteria. Likewise, they have their own thresholds for GPA. Some programs you have to maintain a GPA of 3.5, some programs 3.6, So you have to go through each of those BSMD programs and see what thresholds they have. So that is one thing. So not everyone who gets into the program is guaranteed to get into the med school. So that's the number one point to remember. The second thing is, are you truly committed to staying in a place for 6 to 8 years? Like for example, you do college at a place, 4 years, and then you might want to experience a different culture. You may want to experience a different part of the country. Then you can go apply to different places, right? But whereas with this direct med program, you're stuck in that place for 8 years. So you don't have any kind of wiggle room there. Okay. Or maybe you started off as someone who is passionate about medicine. 2 years into it, 3 years into it, you find out that this is not the right track for you just because this is too stressful, or you have to put in too many hours, or some things happen, then your choices will become very, very limited because you have established yourself on a path for medicine. And now for you to do a U-turn and then come back, it is really going to be very, very difficult. So that is in a nutshell the advantages and disadvantages of a direct med program. If 100%, and if this is the path you want to go, by all means, give it a shot. Just try your best and see if you can get in. So otherwise, if you're not really sure, yeah, medicine is a great career, I want to explore that, but I'm not really 100% sure. I heard that there are some other things, like for example, some of you might want to go into like civil service, might want to go into doing something like political sciences or engineering. You're still struggling between, I'm really good at this computer coding. I've done this Microsoft camps in summer. I've done this Google camps, and I now have my own app. I'm really passionate. I can do a lot of these things. You're still trying to kind of decide. Then my suggestion is to go for a regular 4-year college, because then you have a little bit more time to explore different things and then make a decision. The last thing you really want to do is join the college, do a major, and then change the next year and then the following year. And you would think that that is not common. In fact, that is actually a very common thing among the American grads here. We see, first year there is one major, then by the time then second year their interest changes. Now they're doing something completely different. So my advice is don't do that, as much as possible. Stick to one thing, and then kind of try and pursue that, as much as possible. Because what happens is, if you change your majors and then halfway through the college, 4 years of your college now becomes 5 years or 6 years. Really something, your parents may not like it at all, with the expense of the tuition and everything, that is something to keep in mind. Now, the other thing is with the college, right, with the traditional college, the 4-year college program. So we're not talking about the BSMD anymore. So we're talking about the direct college. So there also your GPA matters, okay? Your SAT, ACT scores matter. Your AP classes matter. Okay, so all those things, they really are the kind of key factors. And honestly, it does not really matter what major you want to do to get into med school. You can actually do political sciences major and then still get into med school. You can actually do international relations as a major, and then you can get into med school. You can even do computer engineering and then still get into med school. Okay, so honestly, it does not really matter what major you're actually going to do. But if you look at the stats, by and large, a lot of them are actually science majors. Okay, so a lot of them go into science majors because they have a passion for science, and they go into it for this reason. But the truth is, you really don't have to kind of choose a science major to go into a med school. So these are all some of the criteria for the colleges. My recommendation is, if you have to choose between a public university, a community college, and a private college, my only recommendation will be to stay away from a community college, because from a cost point of view, that might sound like like a sweet deal, that you can do 2 years of community college, then transfer the credits to a university program, ultimately getting a degree from the university program. But the downside to that is, a lot of medical schools, if you look at the fine print, they will not accept community college credits for their core requirements. So unfortunately, you will find out at the very last minute when you're applying for medical school that you are not eligible for your favorite med school, because you have done some community college courses. Okay, so that is one thing very important to remember. If you're remotely thinking about pursuing medical college, my suggestion would be to do with an accredited institution, whether it is a public or a private. Don't go to community programs, my sincere request. The second thing I would also say is, a lot of you are really smart kids. You stand out in your programs, and you're passionate about field of medicine, and some of you work so hard, and I know some of you might have taken 5 AP credits or 8 AP credits, right? The amount of hard work you put in, all of that is really, really great. The disadvantage is, when you apply those credits that you had in high school, the AP credits, and then say, for example, you have an AP credit in chemistry. Then you go to your college, you convince your college counselor that you have this AP credit, you want to skip the basic chemistry, you want to go to higher level chemistry, right? You have the knowledge, you have the ability, and you've done well in the higher level, but you've skipped the basic level chemistry in college. Unfortunately, what you'll find out is, when you're applying for medical school, they will not take those AP credits. Okay, so even though you've done those AP credits, great, that's fine. Use them for your college, so that will give you an advantage over other applicants. But don't use that AP credit to skip the actual, whether it is chemistry classes or biology classes or psychology classes. That is also something not seen very favorably by the medical college admission committees.
Very good. That was a very detailed explanation, Dr. Satish. Appreciate it. So on the last point that you mentioned, so on the most of the audience here are high school students.
Yes.
So I just want to clarify. So when you're saying the AP credits will not be counted at the med school level, you're saying, yes, for sure, take them and use them to get into a college.
Yes, good college.
Yeah, good college. But also you're saying take the basic level courses at the undergraduate level as well.
Yeah, so for the medical college, the requirements are you have to do, you have to do physics, you have to do chemistry, organic chemistry, inorganic chemistry, you have to do biology. That also includes the animal, biology, also, zoology, and you have to do math, which is the calculus, statistics, biochemistry, English, social sciences. So these are some of the core requirements. So these core requirements you have to complete at an accredited institution.
Okay.
So when you go with, say, for example, University of Iowa, University of Illinois, or any of those Ivy Leagues, those are all accredited institutions. So you have to make sure these core requirements, each med school have certain core requirements. You have to make sure those core requirements are done at a university college or at a private, liberal arts college, which has the appropriate accreditation. Unfortunately, community colleges, they will not. And in the eyes of medical college, admissions committee, they don't see that community colleges provide the same level of rigor when it comes to that.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Thanks for the clarification there. So we are 12:44 right now, so I'm going to jump into another question. You covered a lot of my questions already. So one of the questions that I was repeated quite often with our audience is the scholarships. So how does the scholarships work when it comes to going into undergraduate school and also med school?
Sure. So, that is actually, there are different levels of scholarships. The sports scholarships, which is like you have to be playing kind of level A sports, and really, I think for Asian or especially for Indian kids, I think that is way out of many of the kids' reach to actually play level A at the level A. Maybe in some tennis or maybe something it might be okay, but in American football or those kind of things are way out of the Indian kids' reach. So by and large, there are no sports scholarships that can be kind of accomplished. Even if you play for like your high school team, that is good on your CV. That is what they look for on the CV, but that does not necessarily translate into a scholarship. So that is the most important thing to remember about the sports scholarships. The second thing is to remember is the merit scholarships. Now, every place has merit scholarships, and um, some of the Ivy Leagues, they unfortunately they don't go into any of those merit scholarships at all. The more prestige they have, a college has, the less amount of scholarships they will give, especially the merit-based scholarships. So that is also there. So when my son was applying, what we realized is if we were to apply for like a low-tier colleges, then he was going to get the scholarship. In fact, they're willing to waive the complete scholarship, but not when you apply for the top tier colleges, you're really not going to have much luck when it comes to merit scholarships. That is really that is also not there. So then the only thing is need based. So again, that also kind of does not work in the favor of a lot of Indian parents, because most of the parents are double income parents and have relatively well-paid jobs, and so that is also kind of need-based, to some extent, but it may not help all the people. I would highly recommend completing the FAFSA application, and they made it a little bit easier. You can import all your tax returns from the IRS, and they made it easier. So I highly recommend to complete all the parents, the FAFSA application. And then when the kids apply to the college, then each college will weigh in their application profile, and then they can also look at the parents' income and the assets and all those things, and they can decide what is the amount of the federal loans they can give, scholarships and grants. There is no harm in asking, I have these admissions, are you going to be able to give me a scholarship or something? And sometimes you may be surprised, they may actually say, okay, you're a bright student, we'll give you 5,000, like $5,000 off, something like that. But more prestigious schools you go into, Ivy Leagues you go into, they will not budge, because they know that if your kid is not actually taking that spot, they have like 10 others lined up, and they will take that spot at a full tuition. So that is also something to keep in mind. And so unfortunately, I think the only things we can actually get are the need-based scholarships, and there are not that many. I came across one resource on Barnes and Noble that is a book on scholarships. Kind of they categorized by state, and by content and by topic, so that might be of some help. But by and large, my take on that is, if you are a very bright student, you will get some merit scholarships, but you really have to go with a low tier college. I would, if your passion is to go into med school, my recommendation would be to stay away from a bottom tier school, like a bottom tier college, because prestige of the college also matters when it comes to the medical school admissions. So the higher the prestige of that school, like for example, if you're in the college, you're in the junior year or senior year of your college, and say, for example, you're coming from Harvard and your GPA is, say, 3.6, right? And whereas you're applying from a community college, so we have a community college called Rock Valley here. And if you're applying from Rock Valley College here and your GPA is 3.9, obviously they will consider the person from Harvard with a GPA of 3.6, because that's where the prestige matters. Like all said and done, medical schools also, they want to publish who joined their medical school, right? So when they put out the names, they don't want to put out Rock Valley College. They want to put out Harvard University as one of their students that came from the program. So that's really important. So the students should really try and get into the top tier college they can get into, as much as possible, if the passion is truly to get into medical field.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much. So the next question I have is slightly different than what you just mentioned. So I'm talking about kids who are still interested in the medical field, but may not be in the as a doctor.
Yeah.
Right. So there are a lot of other opportunities for in medical field, like bioinformatics or biomedical engineering, computational medicine. Can you talk a little bit about that, and what does it take for kids to go in that direction?
Yeah, so there are a lot of fields. I mean, it is just, medicine is just one thing. I have seen people who joined medicine, graduated from medical college, did their master's in public health, and they're practicing in that area, in the public health area. So, for example, like genetics is one area, microbiology is there, there is pharmacology.
Physical therapy, there's
physical therapy, occupational therapy,
radiology techs.
Yeah, radiology techs. I mean, I think, in terms of compensation wise, right? So when you're looking at non-physician careers, but also well compensated, I would say a pharmacy really kind of stands out, because they actually get paid very well. Also, like there are some people who have now gone into, they are, like working in the IT, but they're also pharmacists. So their basic job is kind of helping the pharmacists in the IT world, but they're pharmacists by training. So that is also kind of a new field that is there. And physical therapy, they're actually in a lot of demand. For some of the parents in the group, they might remember that being a physical therapist might actually expedite their green cards at one point in the time. That there was such a huge backlog. So USCIS actually said, okay, if you're a physical therapist, you're fast tracked to the green card process. So I don't know if you remember that. So there is definitely a need for physical therapy, very well paid also. Occupational therapy, decently paid, but there is plenty of opportunities. The advantages for those physical therapy and occupational therapy is they can run their own businesses, and that's where they actually can, even though the dollar amount might be a little bit smaller when you look at the average physician salaries versus average physical therapy salary, but a lot of them actually form their own LLCs, form their own companies, so they can actually write off a lot of expenses and everything. So ultimately the take home pay is significantly good.
And also the training is much lesser. Like I think right after college they do 2 years or 3 years. That's it.
It's not as intense. So you have those. So pharmacy, physical therapy, occupational therapy, genetics, microbiology, even like bioinformatics or masters in public health. You don't have to do a medical degree to go into MPH. You can do it without. So that also has a good prospects, good career, because you can work with UN, WHO, all this, for international health wise. So these are some of those other avenues also.
Okay, thank you. Then the question I have is, there are parents in this group also, right? So what can parents do to help their kids in this path?
Sure. I'm sure parents will definitely be there to guide the kids in whatever they choose. My only suggestion to the parents is, which at least I can say that is what we're doing, is we can tell the kids that medicine, is a great career, has a bright future, prospects wise, stability wise, but really the path to medicine is really long, can be stressful. So really, I think it is better for the students to let the students kind of come to the conclusion, let them make up the mind. That is really the best thing, because if you as parents kind of try and push them into this, and then they really don't like it, then we had one of our very close friends son who actually got into University of Chicago for medical school, worked so hard and went into medical school, did not really like it, and then dropped out, then went to Harvard for doing MBA. Now he's very happy as an entrepreneur, and he does a lot of this apps and all of that. So I think the important thing is the parents really should be able to guide them. And the other resource I would actually say is Association of American Medical Colleges. There is plenty of information on the website. It's Association of American Medical Colleges, AAMC. And they have a lot of worksheets, a lot of information, a lot of statistics about how you can guide your kids, and also for the students also, they can look up that information and decide for themselves, is this a right fit or not? Because all said and done, like for example, kids who have chosen a different path, like for example IT or something else, right? So 4 years of college, they can land up in a very decent job. They can land up at one of this multinational company, and versus if kids don't come into medicine with their own interest, they get burnt down. They really feel all those all the stressful situations and all of that. So I think that is one thing I would say is so go through the American Association of Medical Colleges, which by the way is for MD schools. If you want to look at the DO schools also, there is another association for DO, the American Osteopathic Association. So these are very helpful resources for anyone who wants to kind of dabble with the medical career.
Once we are done with this talk, we'll share those links with Mohan Garu, even the link for that scholarship book also.
Yeah.
So maybe he can share it with the group. And so, this topic is not just an hour topic. We were just telling Mohan Garu to and also obviously we gave the mic to Satish, so I'm sure he'll just talk and talk. That's because that's his passion. But I don't know if then we can do another session just with Q&As another time, if that's a possible, because I'm sure you all have a lot of questions about this, because this is just a topic that's like a lot of things come up. I mean, obviously, and then the resources here are not very open, so we just yeah, I mean, feel free to post some questions. We'll be more than happy to answer. But yeah, we can share those links later.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the other thing also I would actually say is, parents can, I know it is tough. I think sometimes we just have to guide them with the volunteer experiences. And sometimes the kids may find it a little bit difficult to establish all those connections. So I think that's where you can come into picture, like using your connections and try to kind of get those volunteer opportunities, or seeking the volunteer opportunities, those kind of things. You can at least help them with those things. Even to some extent, you can do that for research experiences, also establishing those connections and everything. But yeah, I think a lot of it, the kids have to do it, and they have to be proactive. And my suggestion to all the kids in the group is, when you decide to go into the medical track and you're fortunate enough to be writing those applications and sending those interviews and all of that, right? Please don't say that I'm in this field because my parents are passionate about this. That is, I don't know why the admissions committee, as soon as they see that, they will immediately put the application aside, because they really don't want to see that at all. Even in the interviews, right? They don't want to hear that I've landed up with a research job because of my parents' connections. I landed up with this volunteer opportunity because my dad is good friends with, or my mom is good friends with the physician. So please don't put yourself in those situation. The important thing is, everything has to be your interest, kids. It's your interest and your passion, and that's why you're pursuing this, and all the applications has to kind of showcase that. Your parents might be there to help you, guide you, but when you turn in those applications, please refrain from or even if your parents are doctors, just don't say that my parents are doctors, my grandparents are doctors, I just want to continue the lineage of this thing. That unfortunately is seen as a negative factor in the application process.
So I just I don't know if Saket, are you on the thing for the high school students? Is there any advice you want to give to in terms of any volunteering or any subjects they have to take?
I think it looks like he dropped
off.
He dropped off.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I'm here.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry, it's a bit loud in my background. You guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, sure. So I would just say whatever volunteering, shadowing, research you do, just any terms of extracurriculars to get into college, I think the biggest thing is having a focused story or theme. So when I applied with a lot of things relating to my heritage and things of that nature. So there was one track I had that had a lot of those different different cultural aspects of extracurriculars I did, and so that really like having a focused theme for either medicine. So if you're applying to colleges with in a medicine track, having extracurriculars that reflect, hey, I've worked with a neurologist, I've done neurology research, and so now you've seen this focus on neurology. So when I apply to college, it shows that I'm focused and I'm thinking about my future. And so if you apply with a bunch of specific tracks, it shows that you're really thinking about what how you're setting yourself up for the future. I think other than that, just being passionate about the things you want to do and spending more time in a couple of different things rather than branching out and spending like a short amount of time in a lot of different things. Having a lot of hours and being consistent in two or three main focuses is very important, I feel, and it can help you a lot in terms of having depth to show on your application. So
And
yeah,
I want to tell you guys, don't undermine things like dance. You know, one of Sakat's classmates from IMSA, she went into a direct dental program. She was in this the dance competition that was in the what is it, Guinness Book of World Records or something. But anything related to Indian culture, Indian dance, Indian music, they all count. So don't undermine them. Actually, they help a lot. They help you to learn your roots, and they help you with the college application. So if you guys are like being upset with your parents that they're pushing you to like do these dance classes or music, don't undermine them. Actually, I've actually interviewed a girl that is coming into internal medicine residency. Apparently, she did her arangetram in music, and she actually sang a song for me in the interview, which is like very interesting. But so all those, whatever you do, you actually have to make sure you somehow incorporate it into your application, that this is what you're passionate about and this is how it's going to help. Like things like dance and music help a lot with the mental health. That's a different thing, because obviously you don't want to burn out just with the subjects. So doing something other than, that's what they see actually. Here in India it's very different. Like you study, you pass the exam, you get into med school. Here they actually see if you can withstand the stress of medicine. That's very important. All the interview process is based on that. Like everybody sees whether can you withstand this big stress. And that's why they want people to have hobbies. If you say, oh, I don't have any hobbies, that might be a negative factor too. So that's very important. Every application, like every person that's looking at the application sees what do you do outside your just routine day-to-day things. What do you do apart from just studying high school subjects? So you just have to show some passion in something. As Saket said, don't do multiple different things. Do one or two things, either it's dance or music, or I don't. Saket was doing quiz bowl, like whatever, science bowl. Do one thing, but put all the most of the effort in that. So that's our recommendation.
That's very good advice. Thank you, Saket. So I know we are past 1 o'clock. I have one specific question. If you have a couple of minutes, Dr. Satish.
Sure. Yes.
So there is one of the audience member asked, what are the opportunities for sports medicine?
Sure. So sports medicine is really an upcoming field, I would say. So the path for sports medicine is still have to do in medical school, 4 years of medical school, then can apply for a family medicine residency, which is the 3-year program, and then sports medicine fellowship is 1 year after that. Or you can actually go into orthopedics after doing the medical school. Then you can also practice sports medicine that way also. So those are the two different pathways: family medicine, internal medicine, and then do 1 year of sports medicine, a fellowship, and then the other one is orthopedics, and this way you can do that. It is a lot of that involves for example, even in that there is no one kind of a pattern of a job. I have seen like sports doctors with the teams So they have to travel along the teams, with the teams, and they do that. Or sometimes, like, we have some sports doctors when there is like a ice hockey event here in the city. They're actually there. They're deputed for that amount of time, and so the advantage there is you get to watch the game free of cost, but you are also there whenever there is an injury or something like that. So sports medicine is definitely it's a good branch. A lot of research going on in that sports medicine area, and it's a great career. It's a great career. But the standard thing is you have to go through the med school, then go through the residency, and then may end up doing the fellowship in sports.
Okay, thank you. One more question through the chat just we got. Does it matter if we take ACT or SAT?
So my recommendation is if the intention is to go for the direct med programs, a lot of the science based schools, they are going to look for the ACT. If the kid is actually somehow able to navigate both SAT and ACT, then I would say just get them to do both. And ACT is favored by by colleges where when the students apply to the science programs, they look for the ACT score a little bit more, but those requirements vary from particular college to college. So I have seen some kids do both, and I have seen some kids only do one. Just do one. So it really doesn't matter. The other thing, you also kind of reminded me one more thing. So, for example, if the student is not able to decide between, say, computer sciences and medical career, right? So, if they decide to apply to a college, the only thing to keep in mind is the computer sciences is in the School of Engineering. So they can do the major there, but then they have to take all the medical prerequisites for like the sciences, like all the things we talked about, like biology, chemistry, physics, and all those things. Still, they can apply to the medical school. They can apply to it. That's not a problem. Whereas, most of the colleges are structured in such a way that, for example, if you're not sure about the medical field, you're thinking between, say, international relations, which is part of the political sciences, and medicine, then you can apply to international relations, and you then get an admission to College of Arts and Sciences. So, and once you're in the College of Arts and Sciences, you can move from one major to another major without any problem. But they will not let you move from, say, from engineering, from College of Engineering to College of Arts and Sciences. That is not possible. I don't know if I was a little bit clear in that. So if an admission is given to College of Engineering, they have to be there for 4 years in the College of Engineering, or they have to move out. But whereas if they get an admission to College of Arts and Science with a major, for example, international relations, then they can move that to something else, like science major or something, because arts and science in the United States is under the same college.
Yeah. Dr. Satish, I'm getting messages in the chat for some question. Sure. Is it okay if I?
Yeah, please.
Okay. First question is, what is the difference between MD and DO?
Sure. So MD, basically, the DO programs are kind of unique to the United States of America, where it's osteopathic schools. So MD, it's called as allopathic schools, and DO is osteopathic schools. So in the DO schools, what happens is they also kind of go through osteopathic manipulative treatment, OMT. So which is kind of a very unique thing about the musculoskeletal system. It's manipulations. They kind of train the students on the manipulations in the musculoskeletal system, whereas the in allopathic schools, they don't really include that. So in a nutshell, like the typical MD schools, they focus more on the subspecialties more rather than the primary care, whereas the osteopathic schools, they focus more on the holistic approach, most on the preventative medicine, they focus on primary care. But these days, the difference is kind of so narrow. We have seen a lot of DO students who go into all the subspecialties and all of it. Really, so from my point of view, it's a little bit easier to get into the osteopathic schools, the DO schools, because if you look at the stats from last year, the average GPA in college, so we're talking about the college GPA to get into medical school is 3.75 and above average GPA. So for Indian kids, we really have to be above that, because Indian kids, there is a lot of competition. So really, I think our GPAs have to be 3.75 and more, higher. And for MCAT, the scores are 512 and higher. So if you take a kid who has secured a GPA of 3.8 and then has scored on MCAT 512 or say 515, still the chances of getting into a medical school are only 80% with these things, because these are like the entry level criteria before they even somebody looks at the application. Once they look at the application, then they look at all those other things, all your extracurriculars, your clinical experiences, volunteers, all those things, right? Whereas if you are from a minority, so when we say minorities, we're talking about Hispanics, or we're talking about African Americans or Native Americans. They may be okay with 3.5 GPA or maybe MCAT score of 510. They will still get an admission to medical school. Okay, so because the goal is that they want to bring the diversity into the medical colleges. So the point I was trying to kind of make is so these are the criteria for MDs, right? Now for the DO schools, the MCAT requirements are less stringent. Instead of getting 512 and above, you can get a little bit lower score, then you can still make it into DO programs. You can get a little bit of lower GPA, still make into the DO programs. So in the scheme of things, MDs, they usually look for the higher MCAT score, higher GPA score, whereas the DO programs, they look for slightly kind of lower things. Because the other thing to keep in mind is, one thing we talked about, this holistic care and all of that. The other thing is, some of the osteopathic schools, if you have noticed, they don't have their own hospital attached to the medical school. So what happens is, these DO students then have to search for those rotations. So we get a lot of phone calls from DO students from various colleges saying, can we do a rotation with you guys? Can we do this? Because their colleges don't have the affiliated hospitals. So that is also a disadvantage for DO students, that they have to reach out. So that means, so for example, somebody is in Arizona, in a med school in Arizona, they reached out to a program in Chicago. Now they have to factor into their cost, their travel from Arizona to Chicago, the living expenses, the place where they have to stay in Chicago, all those things keep on adding up, so that is the downside to the DO program. I hope it was a little bit clear. If you have a preference, go for MD schools. But if for whatever reason not able to make into MD, you're still better off going to a DO program in states, because the match rates are very, very high. They all end up in the residency programs. Ultimately, what matters then from the time they graduate is how did they do in the licensing exams. So even then, whatever you do now, right, you can actually get the best scores in the ACT or SAT, best score in the MCAT. But then if the student fumbles in the residency, in the licensing exam scores, they may not land up in a great program. So that is also there at the time. So again, all the MDs and DOs are competing for the same residency spots, so it all depends on their scores at the time. So, in some ways, there are no differences. Pretty much anyone can go into any of the subspecialties. MDs, they have a higher chance of going into so-called the cream specialties like dermatology, radiology, ophthalmology, orthopedics. So those are some of the sought out specialties. So you have a better chance of going into those from an MD program, slightly less chance from a DO program.
Next question I have is, do leadership positions in extracurricular activities help boost your application?
Sorry, so if you repeat the question one more time, my apologies.
Do leadership positions in extracurricular activities help boost your application?
Absolutely, yes, absolutely. Because whether we like it or not, being a physician is being like a team leader. So you're actually leading your nurses, you're leading your physical therapists, occupational therapists, your dietary. You have to interact with admin folks, and so you're basically a team leader. And so one of the core requirements for being a physician is can you be a leader and deliver as a leader? So if they have leadership, qualities or something to put on the CV, absolutely yes, that is really there. My only suggestion is, you may say, oh my God, they have to get good GPA, then they have to get good SAT scores, then they have to do all the volunteering work, then they have to do some research, then they have to be leaders. I mean, where is the time? We only have 24 hours a day. So in the scheme of things, the way I said it, GPA, SAT, ACT, MCAT scores, the clinical experiences, research, so that falls in this hierarchy. So if you don't have time for doing like 5 leadership things, that's okay, just let go, focus on one thing. Like it was discussed earlier, it's the depth of your involvement matters, and the time you have been in there. It really doesn't look good if you're there only for one summer as a leader. What really matters is if you have been a leader for 3 years in a row or 2 years in a row is really like what matters. So that really has more weightage in the application. So yes, it does help. I think the most important thing is also how you craft your personal statement, how you craft your activities, right? It really doesn't matter, because see, the thing you have to remember is whether it is the college application or the med school application, the people who are reviewing, like I said, we have 2,000 applications. Okay, the initial screening in our program is done by, you can guess how many people are doing those 2,000 applications. Can you guess how many people would be looking at 2,000 applications? Anyone?
Maybe.
Two people.
Unmute, Srini. Wow.
2 people. That's it. Yeah. So just imagine, how much time will they have for each application, right? Hardly more than 10 minutes. If you spend 10 minutes, so you have to be really able to capture the person who is looking at the application, their attention in 10 minutes time. Okay. How do you do it? So it's not just important to be a leader, but what you have to do is, how is that leadership experience going to help you in becoming a good medical doctor? So you have to somehow translate that into what you do as a physician. Really, I think that is also kind of very important also.
The next question I have is, can kids play sports in college while wanting to pursue a sports medicine?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, see, everyone looks for like well-roundedness, and everyone looks for, in the big sea of applications, right? If you look at the stats from the last year for admissions to medical schools, we already talked about people who have scored 512 and above on the MCAT, and who have a GPA of 3.75 or more, still 20% of those people who accomplished these two things did not land up in a medical school. Okay, so the reason for that is how do they carry themselves in the rest of the application? So did they really show passion to the medicine? Did they really, do they have hobbies? Or are they just boring that they are just only going to spend time reading books and studying for the MCAT and nothing else? So I would highly recommend you know to pick up a sport and kind of be involved in it, and spend some time, so that when you put on the application, right, you really have to show you're a well-rounded person, whether it is for college or for med school. You might not be a star player in the team. You might be kind of like an extra player in the team. That's okay. But you might be the last player. That's still fine. You still have to kind of put it out there on your application, so that you want to present yourself as a well-rounded person. For sports medicine, obviously, it shows your passion, it shows your commitment to that area. Like it was discussed earlier, everything, whatever you put on the application, right, has to tell a coherent story. What is the story that you want to present to the person who is reviewing your application? If sports medicine is the goal, right, so you can actually choose to do your research on sports medicine topic, right? uh, do your clinical activities, like you can shadow sports medicine physicians, you can go to like all those related kind of activities. So when you put everything together, right, it tells a story. It tells a story of okay, you're so passionate about sports medicine. If you have a passion for, say, neurology, like dementia or something like that, right, then you can pick and choose. Like, for example, if your interest is neurology, if you want to be an intervention neurologist, then you can say that your volunteer activities can be tied to helping the aged people, sometimes delivering the meals for the elderly people who cannot prepare the food for them. So you can kind of try to have those volunteer sessions, those extracurricular activities, everything similar in some ways, so that you just have to tell a story. You have to spend a significant amount of time not only on the personal statement, but also on securing good letters of recommendation. This is the other thing to keep in mind also, is even for the high school students right now, sometimes people wonder, oh, I have the same GPA, I have the same SAT score as the person right next to me, but the person right next to me landed in an Ivy League, and then I'm not able to secure an Ivy League position, right? Then the big difference is the letters of recommendation. And it can really make or break careers. I can tell you, in the medical field, that is like really one thing that people look at. So sometimes, imagine you're taking a class, in your high school, you have 200 students in your class, okay, and you go to your science teacher, can you please write me a letter of recommendation? Okay, the teacher will say, yeah, I'll write a letter. But does she know or he know anything more? I mean, are they just going to say, this is our school has a very high reputation, we have a graduation rate of this much, our science classes are this, okay, great. Then what are they going to say about you as an applicant? Do you really have that personal connection with the person who is writing the letter? Sometimes I even tell, it doesn't really matter if you're going to ask the letter of recommendation from someone who does not have a big name, but the person has to write a very strong letter of recommendation. So this is the very key point that people often neglect or miss. I would even say to the students here on this call, when you ask for letters of recommendation, you really have to put on your best effort. You have to have your CV, you have to have all the extracurriculars, because, like I said, they have 200 students, in the school. They don't know anything. The only thing they might know is, yeah, you answer all the questions in the class, but then they don't know anything about you. So you have to present your CV, your extracurriculars, and what you really liked about her class or his class. So that way, oh, okay, the student really liked my class, so they can incorporate that into your letters of recommendation. So that is one big factor which can really make a big difference, how good your letters of recommendation are. And sometimes I see with the applicants that they spend such a long time on the personal statement. They show it to the English teacher, the grammar teacher, their experts in the area, spend all the time, right? But then they completely ignore on the common application, completely ignore their activities. They don't, yeah, I'm spending all this time on my personal statement. But even activities, the way you write those activities and the way you give the meaning to all these activities, that also carries a significant weightage. So you cannot neglect one at the cost of the other. So all of these things, you have to make sure you have all these things lined up, and you have to. So my suggestion is, I told my son, as you go along, it's so hard to remember. Now you're in the junior year of your high school. How can you remember what activities or what days you have done your activities when you were in the ninth grade or eighth grade, right? It is so tough. So as you go along, the moment you win any honors or awards, ask your parents to take pictures on the day of the event, save them, and keep on adding to your CV or your resume, that okay, you won this award or you did this extra activity. If you go to serve food at a homeless shelter, just write down any extra activities. So ultimately, someone might say, okay, I'm so sorry, my dogs in the background are just making a little bit of noise. So you may actually say, someone might just say, I've served food at a homeless shelter, right? Someone might say that. The next kid might say, I've served food in the homeless shelter for more than 400 hours or something like that. Who if you're reviewing that application, who will you give more weightage to? The one who actually given more specificity, who has spent a lot more time spending that, serving the food, right? So all those little details matter. So my suggestion is, for the kids, as you go along, start putting it on, start a Word document and create everything, so that way when it is time for you to do the applications, it becomes really easy to go back in time and then get all the information.
One last question. It's coming from a student. So besides the basic considerations, what questions should we ask ourselves when choosing a path in the medical field?
What questions should we ask when choosing
ask ourselves, so as students?
Yeah, I think the most important thing is, why are you going into the medical field? If the answer is, I really want to help others. See, remember, when patients come to you, they are at a very, very vulnerable point in their life. Like, somebody gets admitted to the hospital, right? They're scared. They're scared for what the test is going to reveal. Like, what does it mean for them? Or if there is something finding, they're really worried. So you're actually meeting them at their most vulnerable point in their life. So you really have to have excellent communication skills. If you're someone who really does not enjoy spending time talking to others, if you're really someone who is going to be very good coming up with new fancy things, behind the scenes, but you're not really able to talk to the patients in front of you or the families, or sometimes, when we give the bad news, right? Somebody is diagnosed with a cancer or something, right? The first immediate thing is there is some anger, anger on that anger might be unfortunately directed towards the physician. So you really have to have a little bit of a thick skin also. So the bottom line is, do you have the communication skills? Do you have that interpersonal communication skills to be a doctor? That is the most important thing you have to ask yourself. Can you handle the work in a very stressful kind of situation, right? Because there was one time we had a situation, again, these are exceptions. Please don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to put anyone off. I'm trying to encourage all of you to join the medical field, which is a noble field. But I also want you to make an informed decision. So there was one incident where a baby has to be delivered, and there are different calls you can make. One is like an emergency C-section. The other one is like urgent C-section. So the doctor made a call to do urgent C-section, not an emergency. So with an urgent C-section, you have to do the C-section to deliver a baby in 30 minutes. By the time they did the urgent C-section, unfortunately, bad outcome happened. Baby died. So immediately the parents started grabbing the doctor collar and then tried to kind of misbehave. This is what happened here in States, and I mean, for any physician, losing a patient is a big deal. We're already feeling sad, and now on top of it, for the patient's family to blame the physician, it's really something, even more. So these are like stressful situations some physicians may have to deal with in their day-to-day lives. So really, are you prepared to take on that stressful role? I'm not saying that other jobs are not stressful. Every job is stressful. Every job is stressful, but stress can manifest in different ways. This is a different kind of stress in the medical field. So are you ready to kind of tackle that? Okay. So that is something. And the most important thing is, are you going there to mainly have the satisfaction that you're helping people, helping patients, and see this as a very rewarding career? Or are you seeing this as like, okay, this is my way to get a stable income? Which is the case. But I can tell you, when I first started as an attending physician back in 2011, the physician pay was significantly higher than a lot of other professions. Now, a lot of other professions have actually caught up, and the physician pay is still kind of at that same level. Okay, in the last 10 to 12 years, it really did not change much at all. Whereas every other field, at least they kept up with the inflation, right? So, so if you're in it for money, I would say just look for something else. Because there are faster ways of making money. You can be a stockbroker, you can be an investment banker, you can be something else and then make the big bucks. You can be a real estate mogul. You can do all of that, right? But you're actually coming into this medicine field because you have a passion. You want to help others. You want to treat others. Then you can come in, but just know that this is a long road ahead. And if you're ready for that, I can tell you, life is very beautiful as a physician. You have all the respect. Like for example, I worked as a hospitalist initially, and I used to work a week on and a week off, meaning that my full-time job is 15 days a month, my full-time job. So you have such a cushy lifestyle, but you'll only see that after you spend all the time going through the med school, going through the residency program. So in my case, I did the residency in England. I did my fellowship in England. And then I had to redo my residency in States because USA and UK don't have the mutual agreements. So my time has even increased than what a typical American student goes through. But still, I kind of wanted to travel on that path. And then after I became an attending physician, there is no looking back. I'm really happy with my career choice, and I'm really pleased that I've done this. And so I would say the same thing. So make sure that you're in it for the right reasons. And if you go to the website which I was talking about, there is a lot of information as to why you should choose a career. in the medical field. And also the other thing to keep in mind, we haven't talked about the loans. I know initially someone asked me, like, becoming a physician, does it mean that we're burdened with so many loans down the road? I will say this: the average loan last year for the medical school graduates, I think it is around 200,000 to 300,000. If you choose to study in a private college for your 4 years undergrad, then you might be looking at a little bit more. But just keep in mind that once you become an attending physician, as long as you focused on paying those loans and everything early on, you will be absolutely fine. You'll be absolutely fine. So never drop the idea of a medical career just because you have a lot of loans to pay back and all of that. If you were to specialize in say some of the top earning specialties, really I think that loan amount I was talking about is not a big amount at all. You can easily kind of repay that back in a year or 2 years. Seriously, you can do that. So please don't let that loan thing put a stop to your medical career. If you want to think about other careers, yes, you can, because your friend might be securing a job at Google or Amazon. They're drawing a salary of 140K the very first year out of college. This is what one of our friends' kids is doing from Johns Hopkins. He's doing that. And then you may actually feel that, oh my God, I'm actually applying for medical school. I've taken a gap year. I'm so sorry. I've taken a gap year. Here, my friend is already, started their work life. They're already earning money. And, I'm still a student, right? That can be a little bit upsetting, but that is the only thing I will say. This is a long path. You're ready for it. Sky is the limit. It's truly it's a very rewarding career. I'll say that.
Thank you very much, Dr. Satish, for very detailed explanation for all the questions. I really, really appreciate it. Now, before we conclude, I'd like Srini, if you have a few words. Unmute.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah. Thank you, Mohan, for moderating the session. Thank you, Satish, Dr. Satish and Dr. Swapna, both of you, and even Saket, for pitching in with your perspective, which would be easy for our students to connect. And Satish, I could really see that the amount of passion that you have in counseling kids, because unless and until you put your heart, you cannot do this job. Counseling is where you need to feel that that empathy for each and every student, the high school students and all, right? I mean, I really appreciate that throughout this session, each and every minute that you both talking about all these inputs for our students. And one thing, I mean, Dr. Swapna, you made my day. Like, this is what I keep telling all our MMF students back in India. Like, whenever you come to interviews, don't just try to bring your intellect self. Make sure that your authentic self also comes out. And
Right.
And these hobbies or volunteer activities and all these things that we do besides studies should actually build a story for us that can convince anyone. So I mean, you both insisted on that aspect. I mean, which I really liked in this session. So people think that they're good in social, they're good in science, they're good in math, but if they're not good in interacting with people and being able to connect to everyone, it would become really difficult for people to get into any college, right?
Yes.
Right.
You both insisted on that, and having these extracurricular activities, hobbies, the importance of all those things in a student's career. Thank you for insisting that. I mean,
no, because it's very important. And we have two kids too. Of course, Saket is in college now. We have a younger daughter. But if they start learning, like say dance, why dance? How is it useful? No, it is useful because you learn resilience. You know, if you have to practice
Correct.
dance and go to Arangetram, it's not easy. And I I commend everybody that's learning dance or music. In fact, anything, as Dr. Satish was saying, it's important to just incorporate into your life story. At the end
Correct.
of this, at this point, all the kids that are there on this talk might not know, but when Dr. Satish was saying he looks at 2,000 applications, you know how many seats they have? They have 13 spots. So 2,000 applicants apply for 3 spots. So that's like a huge number, right? So, you just have to make yourself known, however you do it. I have seen people send dance videos along with their CV, dance like a small dance, like in a hard drive. I've seen people do piano like things along with their CV. So like there are ways to kind of portray your passions. That's always there. And always, I encourage all of you guys to do what you like. If you don't like something, don't continue it. If not medicine, there is something that, that else that's probably waiting for you guys. I mean, I just want them to know medicine is not the end of it, right? I mean, this is a medical talk, but whatever they like. I also want, like, there is one of the surgical resident I worked with. She actually was a model. She went to she won some pageant. She was a model. I'm not saying you all have to do that, but I'm saying nothing is less here. In America, everything counts. So whatever you do it with passion, and everything counts.
Yep, thank you. And I mean, that's what our organization also stands for. Like, meet my friend within is what that reflects.
That's
You
such
need
a
to
nice
you need to
thing.
talk to yourself and realize
Right.
what you are good at and bring that
Right.
authentic self to the community so that people know how unique you are, rather
Right.
than bringing out your intellect self. Because everybody reads the same textbooks, right?
Right.
You cannot be unique with your knowledge. You
Right.
can be unique as a person.
Right.
Bring that
Very,
out so that you can connect to people. That's what we
very
keep telling to all our students, and you both insisting on the same really made my day. Thank you so much.
No, thank you for all the efforts. I mean, with the whole organization, the whole team is very beautiful. No, it's a very nice, unique thing. And whatever we both can do at any point, we'll be more than happy. We can maybe do another session, maybe in summer when kids are like off school, and maybe pick a topic and like go over one particular topic, like maybe research topics and things like that. Or whatever Dr. Satish might suggest a few things. If you guys want to do it, we can do something in summer.
We couldn't leave it to this our participants to ask questions and to interact with you guys. Certainly, what we are planning to do is we are going to send out feedback forms to all our students, all the participants, and get the feedback so that our next session be more interactive. That way, they all gain advantage of interacting with experienced people like you.
Sure. Yeah, one thing that was actually I read on the Google document that you sent us was can H4 students apply for medical school? So yes, I see applications, visa requiring applicants in the medical school in states. I would say based on the statistics, that number is around 50 or 60 per year. So it's a very small number compared to, but if anyone is like really talented, worked hard, so in my opinion, that is not a limitation. That is not a limitation.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone, for participating. Dr. Satish and Dr. Swapna Garu, thank you for patiently answering all the questions. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
If we have more questions from the audience, we will certainly reach out to you and respond to them. So thank you very much.